The rain hammered against the windshield of my 2015 Honda Civic as I sat parked across the street from 1247 Maple Grove Lane in Westfield, New Jersey. My hands trembled slightly as I gripped the steering wheel, watching the house that had once been my greatest act of love transform into my deepest wound. The colonial-style home stood proudly with its white siding and black shutters, the very same shutters I had painted myself 3 summers ago when hope still lived in my chest like a warm ember. "Sarah, you can do this," I whispered to myself, my breath fogging the window. At 34, I never imagined I'd be sleeping in my car, showering at the gym, and keeping my belongings in a storage unit. But here I was, watching my brother Marcus and his wife Linda move about inside the house I had gifted them, visible through the large bay windows I had specifically requested during the renovation. The story began 5 years ago when I was 29, fresh off selling my tech startup to a Silicon Valley giant. The acquisition had netted me $3.2 million after taxes. Not enough to retire on, but certainly enough to change my family's life. I remembered the exact moment I decided what to do with the money. It was Thanksgiving dinner at our parents' cramped apartment in Newark, and Marcus had just told us that Linda was pregnant with their second child. "We're looking at places, but with the market the way it is," Marcus had said, pushing green beans around his plate. "Everything's either too expensive or in neighborhoods we wouldn't feel safe raising the kids." Linda had placed her hand on her growing belly, her eyes downcast. "We'll figure it out. We always do." That night, I made a decision that would alter the course of all our lives. I would buy them a house, not just any house, but a beautiful home in a good school district where my future nephew and existing niece, Emma, could thrive. The house hunting process had been exhilarating. I worked with Rebecca Chen, a real estate agent who specialized in family homes in North Jersey. We looked at dozens of properties before finding 1247 Maple Grove Lane. It was perfect. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, a large backyard for the kids, and located in one of Westfield's best elementary school zones. "This is the one," I had told Rebecca, standing in what would become Marcus and Linda's master bedroom. "They're going to love it." The closing process took 2 months. I paid $485,000 in cash, eliminating the need for mortgage approvals and speeding up the process. I also set aside another $50,000 for renovations and furnishing. I wanted everything to be perfect when I revealed the surprise. I still remember their faces on that March afternoon when I drove them to Westfield to look at a potential rental. Marcus had been skeptical. The neighborhood was clearly out of their price range. But Linda's eyes had lit up at the tree-lined streets and the children playing in well-maintained yards. "Sarah, we can't afford to rent here," Marcus had said as we pulled up to the house. "I know you mean well, but just come inside," I had interrupted, jangling the keys. "Trust me." The moment I opened the front door and said, "Welcome home," Linda burst into tears. Marcus stood frozen, his mouth open, unable to process what was happening. "I don't understand," he had managed to say. "The house is yours," I explained, handing him a folder with all the paperwork. "It's in both your names. All you have to pay are property taxes and utilities. No mortgage, no rent. It's my gift to you, to the kids, to our family." Linda had hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. "Sarah, this is too much. We can't accept this." "You can and you will," I had said firmly. "You're my only brother, Marcus. Let me do this for you." The first 2 years were golden. I watched Emma flourish in her new school, making friends and joining the soccer team. Baby Nathan learned to crawl, then walk, on the hardwood floors I had specifically chosen for their durability and beauty. Sunday dinners became a tradition. With me driving in from my apartment in Hoboken to spend time with the family, I invested the remainder of my money wisely, living modestly while building a consulting business. I figured I had given Marcus and Linda their foundation. Now it was time to rebuild my own wealth for the future. The plan was working beautifully, until it wasn't. The change began subtly. Linda started making comments about my lifestyle choices. "Must be nice to eat out whenever you want," she'd say when I mentioned trying a new restaurant. Or, "Some of us have to think about our children's future," when I talked about a weekend trip to Boston. Marcus began distancing himself too. Phone calls became less frequent. Sunday dinners turned into monthly occasions, then quarterly, then stopped altogether. When I confronted him about it, he was defensive. "You throw your money in our faces, Sarah," he had said during one particularly heated phone conversation. "Living in that fancy apartment, driving around, acting like you're better than us." "Marcus, I gave you a $500,000 house," I had responded, incredulous. "How am I throwing money in your face?" "See? There you go again, reminding us what you did. We get it, Sarah. You're the successful one. You're the savior." The conversation had ended with him hanging up on me. We didn't speak for 3 months after that. When we finally reconciled, Things were different. There was a coldness, a formality to our interactions that hadn't existed before. Linda barely acknowledged me when I visited. Emma, now 10, had picked up on her parents' attitude and treated me like an unwelcome stranger. Only Nathan, sweet 5-year-old Nathan, still ran to hug his Aunt Sarah. The final break came a year ago, on a humid August evening. I had been going through a rough patch. My consulting business had lost 2 major clients, and I was struggling to make ends meet. I'd depleted most of my savings keeping the business afloat and maintaining my apartment. I called Marcus, hoping to talk to my brother about my struggles, seeking emotional support more than anything else. "Why don't you come stay with us for a while?" Marcus had suggested, surprising me. "Just until you get back on your feet. We have the guest room." I should have recognized the reluctance in his voice, but I was desperate for family connection. I moved in with 2 suitcases and a laptop bag, promising it would only be for a few months while I restructured my business. The first week was awkward but manageable. I helped with household chores, bought groceries, and tried to stay out of their way. I spent most days in the guest room, working on my laptop, making calls to potential clients, sending out proposals. It was Linda who broke first. "This isn't working," she announced at dinner 3 weeks into my stay. "We need our privacy back." "I'm looking for apartments," I assured her. "I just need a little more time to—" "You've had plenty of time," she interrupted. "You're a grown woman, Sarah. Figure it out." Marcus said nothing, just stared at his plate. "Marcus?" I had looked at my brother, searching for support. "Say something." He finally looked up, and the coldness in his eyes shocked me. "Linda's right. We've been more than generous letting you stay here. But this is our home, our family. You need to go." "Your home?" The words escaped before I could stop them. "The home I bought for you?" Linda's face flushed red. "There it is. I knew it. You've always held it over our heads, haven't you? The great Sarah, the family savior. Well, guess what? The house is in our names. It's ours, not yours, and we want you out. You have 1 week," Marcus added quietly. "After that, we'll have to take legal action." I stared at them, these people I had loved so fiercely, who I had tried to help. "I gave up my financial security for you. I could have invested that money, bought my own house, secured my own future. Instead, I chose family. I chose you. Nobody asked you to," Linda shot back. "You did it to make yourself feel important, to have something to hold over us." That night, I packed my bags and left. I spent the next months couch surfing with friends, too proud to admit to anyone the full extent of what had happened. My business slowly recovered, but the emotional wounds festered. The house I had bought with such love had become a symbol of my greatest mistake, not the financial gift itself, but the belief that generosity would be met with gratitude, that family bonds were unbreakable. Now, a year later, I sat in my car watching that house, preparing for what would come next. My phone buzzed with a text from my lawyer, Jennifer Walsh. "Papers are ready. The processor will serve them at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Are you sure you want to proceed?" I looked at the house one more time. Through the window, I could see Linda laughing at something on TV. Marcus walked past carrying Nathan, who should have been in bed by now. They looked so comfortable, so settled in the life I had provided for them. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my accountant, David. "Sarah, I've reviewed everything. The legal precedent is clear. The documentation shows the house was a conditional gift, with the implicit condition of maintaining family relations. Their eviction of you, especially given your financial contribution, and their acknowledgement of it, constitutes a breach. You have a strong case." I had spent months researching, consulting with lawyers, gathering every piece of documentation from the home purchase. Every email where Marcus thanked me for the gift, every text where Linda called me the best sister-in-law ever, every photo of us smiling at family gatherings in that house. It all painted a picture of a gift given in the context of family love and unity, then weaponized against the giver when convenient. The rain intensified, and I started the car to run the wipers. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, Marcus and Linda would be served with papers indicating my intent to reclaim the property based on the conditional nature of the gift and their breach of the implicit family contract. My lawyers had assured me that while it would be a fight, the combination of documentation, the circumstances of my eviction, and the clear evidence of their ingratitude would likely result in a favorable outcome. But tonight, I sat with the weight of what was about to unfold. Part of me wondered if I was doing the right thing. Then I remembered sleeping in my car in a Walmart parking lot that first night after they kicked me out, crying not from the discomfort, but from the betrayal. I remembered the humiliation of explaining to friends why I couldn't stay with my brother anymore, the careful dance of half-truths to preserve some dignity. A notification popped up on my phone. It was a memory from Facebook, a photo from 4 years ago. Marcus, Linda, Emma, baby Nathan, and me, standing in front of 1247 Maple Grove Lane, the day I gave them the keys. We all looked so happy, so full of hope for the future. Marcus had his arm around me, and Linda was holding my hand. The caption read, "The best sister-in-law in the world. We are so blessed." I closed the app and put the car in drive. Tomorrow would bring confrontation, lawyers, and the ugly process of untangling what had once been an act of love. But tonight, I would go back to my small apartment, the one I'd finally been able to rent after months of rebuilding, and try to sleep. As I drove away, I caught one last glimpse of the house in my rearview mirror. The porch light was on, casting a warm glow that had once meant home to me. Now it was just a light at a property that would soon be the center of a legal battle. The rain continued to fall as I merged onto Route 22, heading back to my new life. In 12 hours, Marcus and Linda would learn that the house they had claimed so forcefully as their own was not as secure as they believed. They would discover that the sister they had cast out still had fight left in her, and that sometimes when family becomes enemy, you have to protect yourself with the same laws that were meant to protect them. I turned on the radio, letting the late-night jazz fill the car. Tomorrow would be war. But tonight, for just a few more hours, they could sleep peacefully in the house that had cost me everything, unaware that their carefully constructed world was about to crumble just as mine had a year ago. The exit for Hoboken appeared through the rain-streaked windshield. I signaled and took it, leaving Westfield and all its painful memories behind. Soon, very soon, I would return not as a beggar seeking shelter, but as someone reclaiming what betrayal had stolen. The gift I had given with an open heart would return to me, scarred by the journey but mine once more. As I pulled into my apartment complex, I saw my reflection in the darkened window of the parking garage. I looked older, harder than the idealistic young woman who had signed those papers 5 years ago. That woman believed family was everything. This woman knew better. Family was only as strong as the respect and love that held it together. Without those, it was just shared DNA and empty promises. Tomorrow, Marcus and Linda would learn that lesson too. Tonight was their last night of peace in the house built on my sacrifice. I only wished I could feel satisfaction at the thought. Instead, all I felt was tired and ready for this chapter of my life to finally close. The morning arrived with unusual clarity, a stark contrast to the previous night's storm. I stood at my kitchen window in Hoboken, watching the sunrise paint the Manhattan skyline in shades of gold and amber. My phone showed 7:47 a.m. In just over an hour, Marcus and Linda's world would shift on its axis, just as mine had a year ago. I had barely slept, alternating between conviction and doubt. 3 cups of coffee hadn't helped the exhaustion, but they had sharpened my resolve. On my small dining table lay the folder Jennifer had prepared, copies of every document that would support my case. Bank statements showing the wire transfer for the house, emails, text messages, photographs, evidence of a love betrayed. My phone rang. Jennifer's name appeared on the screen. "Sarah, good morning. I wanted to touch base before the processor serves the papers. Are you absolutely certain you want to proceed? Once we serve them, there's no taking it back quietly." I took a deep breath. "I'm certain." "All right. Tom Martinez is our processor. He'll serve them at 9 a.m. sharp. Both Marcus and Linda are listed on the property deed, so he'll attempt to serve both. Once they're served, they have 30 days to respond. Given the nature of the case, I expect they'll lawyer up quickly." "How long before I can move back in?" Jennifer paused. "If they fight it, and they will, we're looking at several months minimum. Could be a year or more if they really dig in. But Sarah, the law is on our side. The documentation clearly shows this was a conditional gift predicated on family relationship and mutual support. Their eviction of you during your time of need, especially given the hostile nature of it, constitutes a clear breach." After we hung up, I tried to eat breakfast, but managed only a few bites of toast. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel, my best friend who had let me crash on her couch for 2 months after the eviction. "Thinking of you today. You're doing the right thing. They made their choice when they threw you out." At 8:45, I couldn't stand the waiting anymore. I got in my car and drove toward Westfield. I told myself I wasn't going to the house, just driving to clear my head. But somehow I found myself parked at the Starbucks on Central Avenue, just a 5-minute drive from Maple Grove Lane. At 9:03, my phone rang. It was Tom Martinez. "Ms. Thompson? I've just served the papers." Mr. Thompson answered the door. He accepted service for both himself and his wife. How did he? What was his reaction? He went very pale when he read the summons. Asked me several questions I couldn't answer. I directed him to contact the attorney listed on the papers. He was still standing in the doorway when I left. I thanked Tom and ended the call. It was done. The battle had begun. 20 minutes later, My phone exploded with calls and texts. First Marcus, then Linda, then Marcus again. I let them all go to voicemail. Finally, a text came through from Marcus that simply said, "How could you?" I stared at those 3 words, feeling a bitter laugh bubble up. How could I? The audacity of the question after everything they had done. Unable to resist, I listened to the first voicemail. "Sarah, what the hell is this?" Marcus's voice was shaking with rage. "You're trying to take our house? Our home? The kids' home? You gave this to us. You can't just take it back because your feelings are hurt. Call me back. Now." Linda's voicemail was shriller. "You vindictive bitch! You think you can waltz back in here and steal our home? We have children. What kind of monster tries to make children homeless? We'll fight this with everything we have. You won't win. The house is ours." I turned off my phone and sat in the Starbucks parking lot, watching normal people living their normal lives. A mother walked by pushing a stroller, talking on her phone about playground plans. An elderly couple shared a coffee and muffin at an outdoor table, life continuing as if my world hadn't just detonated. By noon, I was back in my apartment when Jennifer called. They've already contacted a lawyer, Robert Kushner from Kushner & Associates. He's good, aggressive. He called me an hour ago, all bluster and threats. Says they'll countersue for intentional infliction of emotional distress. Can they do that? They can try, but it won't stick. Sarah, I need you to be prepared. This is going to get ugly. They're going to paint you as a vindictive sister trying to destroy their family out of jealousy. We need to be ready to counter that narrative with facts. That evening, I turned my phone back on to find 43 missed calls and dozens of texts. Some from Marcus and Linda, but also from other family members. The news had spread like wildfire through our extended family. My cousin Janet, "Sarah, please tell me this isn't true. You're not really trying to take their house?" My Aunt Rosa, "Mija, this is not the way. Family doesn't do this to family." My mother's best friend, Patricia, "Your mother would be heartbroken to see her children like this." That last one stung. Our parents had died in a car accident 7 years ago, before I sold my company, before any of this began. I wondered what they would think of their children now. One who had given everything, one who had taken everything, and both now locked in a battle that would destroy what was left of our family. The next few days blurred together. Jennifer filed our complete complaint with the court, laying out the case in detail. The local newspaper somehow got wind of the story. "Sister sues to reclaim gifted house," read the headline on page 3 of the Westfield Leader. My name was there in black and white, along with Marcus and Linda's, our private family drama, now public record. I stayed away from social media, but Rachel told me Linda had posted a long, emotional plea on Facebook about how I was trying to destroy their family, complete with photos of Emma and Nathan in their bedrooms. "These evil actions will not steal our children's home," she had written. The post had over 200 reactions and dozens of comments supporting her. A week after serving the papers, I received an unexpected call from Emma's school. The principal, Dr. Martinez, spoke carefully. "Ms. Thompson, I'm calling because Emma has been having some difficulties at school. She's been telling other students that her aunt is trying to make her family homeless. It's causing some disruption. I wondered if you might have any insight that could help us support her through this difficult time." I felt sick. I'm sorry, I had no idea she was being affected at school. Family conflicts often spill over into our students' academic lives. I'm not taking sides. Of course, but Emma is clearly struggling. She's a good student and we want to support her. After the call, I sat in my apartment staring at a photo from Emma's 6th birthday party. I had organized the whole thing in the backyard of the house. Bounce castle, face painting, 30 kids from her class. Emma had hugged me tight that day and whispered, "You're the best aunt ever." Now she was telling her classmates I was trying to make her homeless. 2 weeks into the legal process, Jennifer called with an update. They've filed their response. As expected, they're claiming the house was an unconditional gift. They're also pursuing the emotional distress angle hard, claiming you're acting out of spite and jealousy over their stable family life. That's ridiculous. Of course it is. But they're trying to muddy the waters. Here's the thing. They've also filed for a restraining order, claiming you've been stalking them, sitting outside their house. My blood ran cold. I drove by once, maybe twice. I never approached them, never made contact. I know. It's a tactical move. They want to paint you as unstable. Sarah, you need to stay completely away from the property now. Any contact could be used against us. The restraining order hearing was set for the following Monday. I had to appear in court to defend against their claims. The thought of seeing Marcus and Linda for the first time since they kicked me out made my stomach churn. That weekend, I met with Jennifer to prepare. "They'll likely bring the children," she warned. "It's a manipulation tactic, but effective. Judges don't like to see children caught in adult conflicts. This was never about the children, I said. I love Emma and Nathan. I would never want to hurt them. I know that, but they're going to use those kids as shields. Be prepared. She was right. Monday morning, I walked into the Union County Courthouse to find Marcus and Linda sitting in the hallway with both children. Emma, now 11, glared at me with eyes full of hurt and anger. Nathan, 6, waved shyly before Linda pulled him closer. Don't talk to her, Linda said loudly enough for everyone to hear. She's trying to steal our house. In the courtroom, their lawyer, Robert Kushner, painted me as an unstable woman consumed by jealousy and resentment. He claimed I had been driving by the house multiple times, making the family feel unsafe. My clients simply want to live in peace in their home, he argued, a home they've lived in for 5 years, where they're raising their children. Ms. Thompson's vindictive campaign to reclaim a gift freely given is harassment. Pure and simple, Jennifer countered brilliantly. My client drove past a property she purchased twice in the course of preparing legal action to reclaim said property. This hardly constitutes stalking. Furthermore, the restraining order request is clearly a tactical move to prejudice the property dispute case. Judge Patricia Winters seemed unimpressed by both sides. I see no evidence of stalking or harassment that would warrant a restraining order. However, Ms. Thompson, I strongly advise you to have no contact with the property or the respondents while this matter is being litigated. Motion denied. As we left the courthouse, Marcus caught up with me in the parking lot. Linda and the kids were nowhere to be seen. Sarah, wait! I turned to face my brother. He looked older, worn down. The confident man who had kicked me out was gone, replaced by someone who looked as tired as I felt. Can we talk? Just for a minute? Jennifer stepped forward. Mr. Thompson, any communication should go through attorneys. Marcus ignored her, his eyes fixed on me. Do you remember when Mom and Dad died? You held my hand at the funeral. You said we'd always have each other, that family was forever. I remember, I said quietly. Then how can you do this? How can you try to take our home? How could you kick me out when I needed help? How could you let Linda treat me like a burden after everything I did for you? His face hardened. You always throw that in our faces. The great sacrifice you made. Did you ever think maybe we didn't want your charity? Maybe we would have been happier struggling in a small apartment than living with your generosity hanging over our heads? Then you should have said no when I offered. How could we? You were so proud of yourself, so eager to be the family savior. Saying no would have crushed you. We stared at each other across a chasm that seemed to widen with each word. I loved you, I said finally. Both of you. The kids. I gave you that house out of love, not to hold it over you. But you did hold it over us. Every visit, every conversation, there was this undercurrent of, look what I did for you. Linda felt it more than me. She said you looked at her like she was a charity case. I never. It doesn't matter what you intended, Sarah. What matters is how it felt. And when you needed help, when you came to us vulnerable, Linda saw it as a chance to finally be equals. To not be the poor relations taking handouts. I know it was wrong. I know we handled it badly. But taking our home, making our children suffer, how does that make you any better than us? Jennifer touched my arm. Sarah, we should go. I let her guide me to our cars, Marcus's words echoing in my head. That night, I lay in bed replaying every interaction from the past 5 years. Had I been condescending without realizing it? Had my gift been a burden disguised as generosity? No. I refused to accept that narrative. Whatever unconscious superiority I might have projected, it didn't justify throwing me out when I was struggling. It didn't excuse the cruelty, the ingratitude, the betrayal. The preliminary hearing for the property dispute was scheduled for the following month. Jennifer warned me it would be a long process, with depositions, discovery, and eventually a trial if we couldn't reach a settlement. They've indicated they're willing to discuss a settlement, she told me during one of our strategy sessions. They can't afford a prolonged legal battle any more than you can. What are they proposing? They want you to drop the case in exchange for them paying you $50,000 over 5 years? I laughed bitterly. They want to pay me $50,000 for a $485,000 house? Plus the $50,000 in renovations, yes. It's insulting, but it's an opening. We can counter. No, I want the house back. That's the only settlement I'll accept. Jennifer sighed. Sarah, I have to ask, what's your endgame here? Say we win, you get the house back. Then what? You'll live in a house full of memories of family gatherings that will never happen again? You'll walk through rooms where your niece and nephew played, knowing they hate you now? I didn't have a good answer. The truth was, I hadn't thought beyond winning, beyond proving that I had been wronged, that justice existed, that generosity couldn't be weaponized against the giver without consequence. 3 days before the preliminary hearing, I received an unexpected visit. I was coming home from a client meeting when I found my Aunt Rosa waiting in my apartment building's lobby. "Tia Rosa, how did you—" "Your doorman recognized me from better times," she said stiffly. "We need to talk." I led her up to my apartment, my mind racing. Rosa was my mother's sister, the matriarch of our extended family since my parents' deaths. Her opinion carried weight with everyone, including Marcus. She sat on my couch looking around my small apartment with obvious disapproval. "This is how you live now? It's temporary, I'm rebuilding. And destroying in the process." She fixed me with the same stern look that had terrified me as a child. "Sarah, mija, what are you doing? You're tearing this family apart over property. Your mother would weep to see this. Marcus and Linda tore the family apart when they kicked me out. They were wrong. I've told them so. But two wrongs don't make a right. You're about to make those children homeless out of pride. I'm not making anyone homeless. Marcus has a good job. They can afford to buy another house or rent somewhere nice. They just can't afford that particular house in that particular neighborhood without my help." Rosa leaned forward. "Is that what this is about? Putting them back in their place? Reminding them where they came from? It's about justice. It's about not letting people use you and discard you when convenient. It's about revenge," she said flatly. "And revenge will poison you, mija. I've seen it happen. You'll win your house and lose your soul." We talked for another hour, going in circles. Rosa tried guilt, logic, emotional appeals. But I held firm. When she finally left, she paused at the door. "I'll pray for you, Sarah. For all of you. This family needs healing, not lawyers." That night, unable to sleep, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my phone. There were hundreds from the past 5 years, most taken at the house. Birthday parties, barbecues, Christmas mornings. In every photo, we looked happy. Had it all been a lie? Had the resentment been building even then, hidden behind smiles? I stopped at a video from Nathan's first birthday. Marcus was helping him blow out his single candle while Linda laughed in the background. I heard my own voice behind the camera. "Make a wish for your nephew, Marcus." He had looked directly at the camera and said, "I wish for him to grow up surrounded by family who loves him." The irony was suffocating. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. "Hearing postponed. Their lawyer requested a continuance. Judge granted 2 more weeks. They're stalling. 2 more weeks of limbo. 2 more weeks of being the family pariah. The aunt who was trying to steal children's home. The sister who chose property over people. But also 2 more weeks to strengthen my resolve. Because every time doubt crept in, I remembered that night they kicked me out. I remembered Linda's sneer as she told me to figure it out. I remembered Marcus's cold eyes as he threatened legal action if I didn't leave within a week. I remembered sleeping in my car, showering at the gym, trying to maintain professional appearances while my life crumbled. They had taken my gift and used it as a weapon against me. Now I would use the law as my sword and shield. It wasn't about revenge, despite what Aunt Rosa thought. It was about refusing to be a victim. It was about showing them, showing everyone, that kindness wasn't weakness, that generosity came with the expectation of basic human decency in return. The house stood at 1247 Maple Grove Lane, unchanged by the legal storm swirling around it. But soon, everything would change. The preliminary hearing would begin a process that would end with justice, or at least what passed for justice in a world where family could become strangers and love could transform into litigation. I closed the photo app and set my phone aside. Tomorrow would bring new strategies, new moves in this chess game of family destruction. But tonight, I would try to sleep in my small apartment, dreaming of a house that had once meant love and now meant only war.